So this is my I am sad chart. This is reports against X for all packages. And the reason it's slow is because it's SVG, so it's kind of drawing the graph as we watch. But it's very fast at home. Let me scroll down here. So yeah, I don't actually use this particular chart for this last release. No, not that one.
So how can I use this? I can hand it a list of packages and get a cumulative graph like that?
Yeah. I collect the data in JSON files,
Right.
and then I have a thing that goes through it. It generates the graph every 10 minutes.
But it's easy as handing that list of packages.
Yes. And in fact, and I can show this, I have a, if you have a team that subscribes to the bug mail for a set of packages, then you can just run that script to get that, to build that list. So for Natty, I found this really effective for me to try to stay on top of the bugs for X. And this line over here, the black line, is the total bugs for it's measured the same way for Maverick. And so you can see it's a huge difference. The color line is down at the bottom. Anyway. And it's clickable, so like you say, what's this big, huge green blob there? Well, that's the Intel driver. So then I'll go to Launchpad, take a while to load up, and then boom, 72 Intel bugs. So I guess that's a quick summary. Does anybody have any questions or anything before we go on? So what I wanted to use this session for was to hear, particularly from you two guys, but from anybody that's using Arsenal, what your plans are and what what we can do to collaborate with stuff.
So for the kernel team, I've been writing more reports based on the new library, and then we're going to basically take our existing Arsenal scripts and re-implement them against the new library and get them to be run fully automated again. Right now, they've kind of bit rotted a little bit. They're not trusted. So since they're not trusted, they only get run periodically.
What sort of issues did you run into?
I don't know, I can't really tell you what the issues are.
Okay.
All I know is the person who's supposed to be running them doesn't trust them.
So more workflow related than actual?
Probably. But I also want to switch them over to the new library.
Right.
And probably extend them quite a bit. One of the things is like we've got a process new bug script, which started out as yours. We hacked extensively on it. It's big and unwieldy, so I want to really pull it apart and modularize it. And I've already got that pretty much done. So now it's just kind of adding new modules which do individual tasks on different bugs for different reasons. So primarily that's about all we do.
Yeah, I don't run my new bug script either anymore, for similar reasons. And the approach that I took was to focus on the outward hook for X and to try to put as much logic into that. Not questions,
right. No, right.
but actually like doing as much as I can programmatically on the client side to analyze the bug and see what information is in there. I don't know if that approach worked for the kernel, but
honestly, we haven't really thought about it from that angle, and we probably could, probably should.
Yeah, I've seen lots of F4 package installation failures where there's actually a hardware error on the system, reading and writing to the disk. So, you know, if you were to look at vMessage for hardware errors like that, you could just prevent the bug report in the first place.
Yeah, pop up. I've actually, that's the type of logic that I've been adding, like, you know, it's clear that they have a messed up configuration with the NVIDIA module and trying to boot Intel. And so I can catch those in the Apple bug and prevent the bug being filed.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So there's some things, I think, sometimes when I'm looking at bug reports I run across, I find something like, let's say, regression potential, we stopped using that tag. And apparently that wasn't well messaged, and some people still use it. So I have a script that goes through and looks for any bugs tagged that, and it re-tags them.
Right.
But there's two different ways I would want to run it. One is going forward, all bugs from today on, and then also doing the cleanup, which would be from today backwards. How can Arsenal help me do that?
So is it a tag cleanup that you need to search for all instances of that tag and
Well, going
change
forward,
it?
it would look for, you can use search tests with date created, so date created greater than yesterday, and look for that tag and just replace it.
Right.
And then the cleanup would be date created less than yesterday.
Yeah, those are actually, that's a fairly easy script to write with Arsenal.
Right. Well, it's also a fairly easy script to write the Launchpad, but I mean, you know, I've already written it myself. How does Arsenal make it easier?
Because, well, in the case of tags, it gives you a Python tag-like iterative object, which is a little more straightforward, I think, than the Launchpad version. The other thing is that it allows you to just treat it as a Python list, so that as you add or delete things from it, you don't have to worry about doing explicit Launchpad saves and stuff. The class does that for you.
Okay.
Yeah, the library that he was referring to is Python Launchpad lib
Toolkit, LPLTK.
LPLTK.
Okay.
And so that, more than Arsenal for that particular case, you would want to just use that library directly.
Because one of the things that library does is once it does lazy accessing of the properties on the bugs, so you don't pay a penalty that you were paying with the older Arsenal script. So when you instantiate a bug object in Arsenal,
Right.
it would go out and it would cache a bunch of the bug state information. The new LPLTK doesn't do that. It only does it when you reference that particular field. It'll then cache it for subsequent references.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the fundamental problem is that with Launchpad lib, whenever you access the,
Right.
you know, it makes a call to Launchpad to retrieve the data. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you call main like
Yes.
3 times, it makes 3 calls. So this library handles doing the proper thing, retrieving it once and then caching it.
Okay.
So, sorry,
No.
excuse me if I came too late and missed it. So, Arsenal is a wrapper around what?
Yes.
A library, not a tool, or that's a library and a tool?
This
It's
is
a Python module.
Yeah, this is specifically Python Launchpad lib toolkit.
And the LPLTK is essentially just Rev 2 of the Arsenal library.
What about, so I find a crash report and I want to search all the, or maybe a string in a log file and I want to search all the bug reports with that attachment for a particular string. Is that, is there something in Arsenal for that?
Really, the library is, right now, is intended to be a very small wrapper.
Right.
So
So it sounds like
it
a
does-
useful tool for, okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't add a lot of additional functionality on top of Launchpad Lib. We kind of discussed on the plane over here how we would want to handle extending that. And we like the fact that it's really thin so that we can actually take advantage of the existing Launchpad Lib documentation. So if you look at Launchpad Lib documentation, but you use our library, you can see a real good correlation.
Okay.
Right. Where if we want to add additional functionality like you're talking about, which would be very valuable, we think the right thing to do would probably write a new module for which we would have to have our own documentation for.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are some cases where, some routines make sense to add in there,
Yeah.
small things like.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, could this actually merge into Launchpad Lib?
I don't know why not. I mean, you'd have to take a look at what we've done and why we've done it. Yeah.
Package?
Python Launchpad, the toolkit, yes, that is in NAB. So you should be able to get it. I keep it relatively up to date. I think it's pretty close to the current PCR tree.
Yeah, I think Launchpad Lib was largely maintained by Leonard, who's left, who's not doing it anymore. So I guess now it's maintained by the Launchpad team as a whole, but well, that has a couple of consequences. One is that probably getting more contributors in it would be pretty good, and I hazard a guess that if those people had strong opinions about what it ought to work like, they'd probably get away with it.
Well, you did a rotation in, and part of the criticisms we had for Launchpad Lib before we did the rotation, a lot of them centered around documentation, actually.
And I think a lot of those, well, one that was during the rotation, went through and tried to fix up as many as
Yeah.
good.
I mean, from our point of view, like, we think of the API in two ways. Like, there's a public REST API, which is just like methods and like HTTP methods and JSON. Launchpad Lib is supposed to be a convenient thing for doing Python stuff against Launchpad. So if you're having to write another Python wrapper against Launchpad,
It's kind of,
then we're not doing a good enough job, and we'd like to bring some of that back in.
right, it's just that,
You
You guys
are
are-
happy to delete code out.
yeah,
Cool.
So,
but the issue is, as I heard from the session today, you are in the exact same boat as the kernel team. You've got 6,000 bugs and you've got 20 developers. We've got about 10,000 bugs and about 20 developers,
Yeah.
right? So we know that if we ask you to fix this or that, we can guess where it's going to fall on the
Yeah.
priority list. It's easier for us to add a little bit to this library and get it done as we need it. Because it's not a complete wrapper over everything in Launchpad. We only extend it as we need to.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
I understand still, there should
Still
be,
kind of-
all that would be nice to come back into Launchpad Lib and there'd
yeah,
be one that
there's
we
a lot
already
of
use.
people writing plans who are probably creating.
Right. Well, I'm sure we're not the only ones who do this.
No, no, no problem. I think the fact is, so because Launchpad Lib isn't good enough, like everyone's re-implementing their own solutions, that's starting to really bug me. It's a very hard thing to do something about. Could you send me an email to Launchpad Dev, maybe just about LTK or?
Sure. I'll send myself an email to do that.
Or I could just do it. Just,
just to show one of the reports, this is, basically it's the same data as the graph that I just showed, but this has the actual bugs. And, Launchpad itself has reports of, you do a query and get information, but I find having these canned searches really handy for me to get the information I want. Like I wanted to be able to see the tags, the signee, and then some information about how recently you got a message.
Where's that day? So
Yeah.
Well, and plus this goes across packages, right? Which
Right,
is something
that's-
that's hard to get.
Yeah, and so this is across, you know, all the X packages. And so that's helpful for like, you know, there's X packages that I wouldn't think to look at. But if it pops up on this list that, you know, some weird random graphics card is suddenly getting a bunch of bugs, then this will show that. And I know, like for you, you know, you're in a similar situation if wanting to have visibility across a bunch of packages for a certain set of criteria. So that's what this is sort of set up to do. And the architecture of this is there's one script which that interfaces to Launchpad lib and with the criteria of what I'm looking for. I'll show. So yeah, so these are all different queries, I guess, that I've done. So like, if I was interested in like all the nouveau bugs that reported against Natty, and then this is just a JSON file with all this information. So one script generates these files, and then I have another one, which is really simple, which just turns that into a report.
And I've done almost the exact same thing. I have one script that generates JSON files, and then another one that generates reports.
And we probably use the same code to generate JSON, right?
No.
No? Okay, then maybe that's something we should talk about. What do you have?
What do you mean?
What?
I have my own scripts that I wrote from scratch.
Okay, but do they use Launchpad like toolkit?
Yes.
Okay,
So here. For that,
Okay.
I'll do.
Do you want me to try plugging in that?
You could. Let's see where is it.
I think one thing that happens with these wrappers and scripts that we write is the classic open source thing about not wanting to release it until it's.
Say that again.
I think one thing that happens with these scripts and wrappers for Launchpad is that people get this classic situation that they don't want to release it until it's got to a reasonable level of quality, but the level at which it satisfies their own personal need is lower than the level where they want to show it to anybody else.
Well, my motivation has been very personal of like, I only care about my own needs. So I don't release it because it just needs to satisfy.
There it is. All right, so this report was one that I started out with what Martin Pitt has a report about SRUs, and we weren't interested in anything other than kernel packages. The other thing was that we wanted additional data about the bugs that were fixed inside of each SRU. Martin actually lists them, but he doesn't give the title or any additional information. So I wrote this to give us some additional information, plus the fact that these icons over here give some information about the current state of whether the bug's been verified, whether it's a tracking bug, whether it's a CVE, other information like that. I think there's some failures down here. Yeah, so this icon here says that no one has verified that bug against what's been proposed, so that one will probably get reverted.
How do you detect that it hasn't been?
Tag. We apply a tag, and if you verify the fix, then you're asked to change the tag. Now, we of course go through and don't completely rely on people to do it right, but we expect them to at least have added a comment saying that they did it or didn't do it, didn't do the test, or, you know, passed or failed. So if they didn't clean up the tag, we'll do that. And then the red X indicates that the person responded that the update did not fix their problem. And then, let's see what else. So, when we started doing stable work, we started wanting to know, you know, just information about the various bugs that are marked with various regression tags. And so I was interested in what series they were tagged, were found, importance status, who's assigned, when it was originally opened, so age from the last time this report was run, which it's run every 30 minutes. And then, I don't remember what this field is. And then this is a table I found on the web, and it's sortable columns.
Oh, it's a JavaScript.
Yep, and you can sort multiple
Does it-
columns, which is kind of nice.
Does it generate from the JSON directly, or do you have something that turns the JSON to
HTML.
HTML?
Yeah.
What do you use for that?
That's true. Yeah. It's all just hand coded. It works. Let's see, where else is it going? So, oh, one thing I was going to point out is that, as you can see, there are a lot of regression potential bugs.
Yeah.
You know, 532. Now, if you're worried that I'm running this every 30 minutes, I cache the data and I write a timestamp into it, and then I do a search since the last time I ran it. So I'm only picking up a few each time at that. Most of the time I'm probably getting nothing back, no new tasks. And then I'm also writing reports based on new bugs that are coming in various time periods. So these are the bugs that have come in against the project in the last 24 hours. The null bug data, there is a bug I introduced into my own code this week while it's here. So, what was that? I should remember what that column.
Comments?
No, I think that might be,
Type since change.
it's a G or something. I think it's, I was starting to play with the idea of having my own version of gravity.
And what are the numbers?
So it's months, day, hours,
Oh, okay.
and those are sortable as well.
Yeah, being able to sort the columns is really nice. It'd be nice if we could do that. You launch that too.
Hang on. Anything we've got that searches that has 13 rows can probably do that. Well, no, not anything, sometimes. They don't.
Is that it? That's the criteria you use, no?
No, it's just that it's harder to do nice sort of columns when you have thousands of rows. So I'm pretty sure passionate even. But yes, I agree. I fully agree. It's not an insoluble problem. We should solve it.
That'll be nice. This, like, I think probably several people have written this thing that keeps a cache of bugs and uses the timestamps to update it.
It'd be nice to have that.
Awfully nice to have that,
More systematically. Yeah, because
or to have that reusable.
yeah, the most frustrating thing in this whole process is having to cache the data in a Launchpad and having to wait 2 hours because your cron job takes an hour and a half to run.
So, yeah.
What takes that long to run? Getting the data? Or?
Yeah, I have some scripts that will go through and process all X bugs because it's looking for information in the attachments. And so I have to download the attachments. And it's
So
actually...
with the date, I mean, if you've already done all the old ones, can't you do them
Yeah,
Since date created greater
Yeah.
than yesterday minus one, and would
I-
that reduce the
it
time?
would, and that's an optimization I should use.
So maybe we can have that in Launchpad local, so why not just in Launchpad local? Or maybe something that sits on it, just to then say, okay, this query, just keep it like, I have a cache and I have a way to update it, you can run through prod and then I take this stuff
Yeah.
back out.
And another thing that would be helpful to narrow down the amount of stuff we have to process is the search routine in Launchpad Lib lets you specify some criteria, but it doesn't let you, it doesn't always let you specify like and conditions or conditions. Like I only want bugs that this condition and this condition and this condition. So you end up kind of like picking a close thing, and then you have a bunch of if statements. You know, if this, then exit, if this, exit.
Well, yeah, it does and or.
Right.
It's a little more, it depends on it has an opinion about which way you probably want to combine things.
Some of them you can put things like for tags. You can say this and this and this, not this and this.
So this is another report I wrote. This one I cheated on a little bit, but basically I used the LPLTK to find all of the open bugs that have oops text attached to them, pull them down locally, and then I grep for warnings, which is basically something you also do. And then I just kind of by hand cobbled together this report because I want to be able to sort, use the sorting function, and it's kind of a cheap and easy way to find duplicates. But the intent is to, again, do all this with scripting and editing so that it watches every new bug that comes in and tries to match it up and find the duplicate and get it automatically filed without having to have anybody process it.
Well, if you're going to automatically mark it as a duplicate, you could use an app or bug pattern to stop the bug from being reported at all. Unless it's useful to have
It's probably not useful to have, but
multiple duplicates.
it's easy for me to figure it out this way and then maybe take that code and then put it into that port or wherever it needs to be, right? So I have a bunch of existing data.
A bug pattern, it's just an XML file with a regular expression in it. So you give it the package name, and then
I'm not,
if it's a,
I haven't decided how far down I have to drill to verify that it truly is a duplicate. So
okay.
the warning is a first indicator,
Mm-hmm.
but then I may want to dig in and see what the actual hardware is in
Right.
a number of these cases. And so anyway,
But if this one here
yes,
is the hardware. As relevant here.
I don't know. I'd have to go look at it. Probably not.
Apport has a dupe signature that just got added, which is really cool. And if you, a case like this, if you know warnings,
Mhm.
if the text is exactly the same, or even if you wanted to append like the hardware thing to it, you can have that be set as a dupe signature. And so then whenever someone reports a bug through Apport, it'll automatically, it has its own database, and it will automatically figure out, oh, these are all dupes of this one bug.
Don't we have dupes detection disabled for our
I
package?
think so.
Well, if you wanted to do your own dupe logic, this would be another. That's what I've been doing for the GPU games, and so that's been working on it.
First, you're referring to the retracer or actually when reporting?
I'm sorry?
Are you referring to the retracer or actually when reporting?
These are for GPU lockups, so it's separate from both of those. So it's if you have an Intel graphics system and it locks up, then it will the kernel will trigger a GPU hang event, and then Apport will capture the state of your machine at that while it's hung, and then you curse some power cycle, and And then when it boots back up, then they'll say, hey, you want to file a report on what just happened?
Well, that's not.
And you say yes, and then for the description, you put in period,
Yeah.
or whatever, something useless. But anyway, so then that's enough for us to sort of. So Brandon, is this helpful? Do you have more questions or ideas or thinkings?
No, I think this is good. Yeah, I think having the multi-package, gathering multi-package data and multi-package reports will be really useful. So using that for the foundations too.
And all of our scripts are in a public Git repository. In addition, it's external to, no, the LPLTK is BZR, and that's one place. The kernel team's scripts are in a Git repository. They're also public.
Where are they?
I'll send you the mail. I think I have sent you mail about.
Oh, we have actually.
I'm also doing the same sort of reports, not just for X, but for other teams too. So if anybody else has a team and they'd like to have the stuff captured, just let me know. Just tell me the name of your team and I'll stick it in.
Provided they can subscribe to the package budget, is that right?
Yeah, just like desktop. And I sometimes have to fiddle the graphs a little bit because like the desktop bugs like went off the chart. So that was a bit big. Maybe we could divide that one down a little bit
So
more.
in the graph here,
I don't think that's useful.
is the width of the lines indicative of the line?
So,
The width of the line width.
Is indicative of the line?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's the total.
And it's
not
only for
volume.
data and
Okay.
start counting. Your queuing of the data doesn't change that
Right.
have you guys seen that Catman, Jones Catman?
Yes.
board?
Yes.
It's one of those.
That's for,
Do you mind putting that up for us? I think it's just people.financial.com/school MBA.
I tried to get that running on Natty and I wasn't having any luck.
I think it's canonical. My machine can't get it for some reason.
Told it.
Tell the MB, B for Bravo, yep. Yeah, Catman. And then like canonical is our kind of the top one. Do you remember why? Yeah, if you tell me later why it didn't work, remember. See what I can do.
Okay, yeah, it was one of the packages, Python ant.
Oh yeah, so this is like one little card per bug on this team.
So those are the reports, or the bug reports that are assigned to members of the team?
Yeah, that's right. And then the left column is assigned but still confirmed or new, and in progress. Ones that haven't merged proposal and the ones that have emerged but not released and then released.
Can you drag them? Drag them?
No, sadly.
It's
just
basically a
really-
status page, right?
Yeah, it's just one presentation. It would be really, really nice to make it rewrite, but not so easy.
Probably that's when once you're debugging why the drag.
Well, there's a paid version of it,
Yeah.
right? Have you ever seen that?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's different software.
Yeah. And Steve and I use that just for some simple workflow when we're working on start of a cadence. Because the two of us are working through the various kernel series that we're packaging it up and getting ready for it to start. And so we don't have to talk to each other about, hey, I'm starting this, I'm doing that. We just start dragging them around to different workflow states.
I thought it, and you have to manually create the cards for each
Yeah,
one, right?
it's,
I thought it'd be sweet if we could feed Launchpad directly and have like a queue of incoming.
yeah,
events
and we're just using it, the free version, so it's very limited. And in fact, I think we're probably going to stop using it because it's not helping it all that much, but it could. Anyway, that's kind of off topic.
So I'm curious because I didn't expect this many people here. Evidently something is interesting to people in general about automated bug triage, so I'd like to hear from other people about ideas or...
Anything to find trends is curious. Or is there anything?
There, by the way, was something that I saw on some of the graphs. Discontinuity at certain points, they go smoothly, not so smoothly, but they go up and suddenly you have a jump. You have an idea what this might have caused. This is the type of things I would like to take from a graph.
Yes, I know exactly what causes that.
Well, in the case of the kernel team, I can imagine that we just, apply a bunch of stable upstream commits, something like that would generate a bunch of new bugs.
Yeah. But it would, as analysis, it would be interesting to see what caused this discontinuity. And confirm that indeed this is it.
Right.
Oh, no, those are normal fluctuations. I don't know if they're seasonal or not. But on some of them, you have a vertical jump.
Right.
Complete, real vertical. The graph is going, and the top of the graph is here, and suddenly it goes here. So you have vertical displacement for the next point.
Well, I can tell you on this one, all of the ups generally correspond to, well, you can see that there's kind of a
Yes,
common
they're
trend. It's just regular.
they suggest some
Right.
seasonality. Yeah.
And the drops down generally correspond to, like, we put a really heavy emphasis on triaging that day and brought the numbers down. Was there one that had a sharp jump up?
Yes.
Which one?
One of the first you showed.
Okay, make this one.
No. Yes. Here you can see it. This is much smaller.
Yeah.
Here.
Maybe the janitor.
No, that's actually Arsenal. Those are days where I ran scripts that expired bug reports.
Oh, so all right.
Yeah, so it's just the time scale is very small, so it looks like it's a vertical line, but it's a script that was acting and did a whole bunch of work all at once. Yeah.
Cool. And so we can use them.
Yes.
Well, of course, I'm not going to try it. So
Is Launchpad's automatic expiration running now?
No, pretty sure.
Okay.
Expiration is done.
Yeah.
You need
Okay.
to check that it's turned on for that bug file. There's a flag per package or whatever it is.
I think it is.
It's for the distribution.
yeah, for us it's distribution at least.
It ran for a while and then something got stuck and stopped and now it's
And it won't get stuck again.
never again, no more bugs.
No. Launchpad is now upgraded to this day called.
High, right? I'd love to try natural language processing on bugs to try to see see if there are,
Yeah. I
like
would
to try and automate what people are doing by saying, okay, so that looks like traced back and it's the same, so it's probably the same.
I played around with some very simple, taking titles, which are like the worst bit of information you can get, and chopping out stop words and some other things, and then grouping them and trying to build a matrix of common terms and seeing if you could find any kind of correlation. It was really difficult.
I did
The data set was poor.
I used the Ultimate Debian database and looked for bug titles that were similar to that. So looking for Debian bug reports that were similar to the Ubuntu bug reports, and found quite a few.
Oh, that's interesting.
So then I was able to add a bug watch to the Ubuntu bug to the Debian one. It was command amp.
Sorry.
Command amp.
Oh, Commandant.
Commandant. Yeah. That.
It's not in enough volume effort or whatever.
No, his PPA only has it for Lucid,
Okay.
so it didn't.
Okay, we can possibly fix that.
If anybody else has questions or whatever, yeah. I did.